You claim to be proponents of rational, logical, evidence-based argumentation. That's great. That's entirely laudable. But when I look at your online activity, when I look at, I don't know, for example, your Twitter feed, that's often not what I see. How do you reconcile this claim to be evidence-based and rational and logical against stuff like, oh, I was just trolling you, oh, I was just shitposting, or TLDR?
If you say something on Twitter, something like Leslie Jones looks like a monkey or ape, that doesn't mean that the person can have facts-based arguments for something else. And just watch somebody like Bearing's channel. He can be really funny and kind of trolling the feminists, but then he can have a serious discussion about what is and isn't a rape.
Are you aware that the ridiculous buzzwords you helped to popularize, like SJW and cuck and regressive, have all lost whatever meaning they once had and only serve now as casual insults and pejoratives to derail any meaningful conversation?
I want to throw this back at you. Do you realize that using words, what feminists all say, that all men are potential rapists or all men are rapists? If you disagree with feminists, they say you're a homophobe, sexist, racist. So if these words haven't lost their meaning, they are losing their meaning. So it goes both ways.
For the last time, what is it with you people and committing actual literal felonies? Like, you might want to work on that? I mean, I thought the Ralph retort was so rational when he was fantasizing about beating up women with dyed hair, but then he assaulted a police officer, and finally I was convinced.
I have no idea who that guy is, but but there are criminals on your side as well, so yeah, you're not squeaky clean either.
In videos and in the comment sections, anti-feminists often take up the most extreme or the weakest feminist position they can find, or they just straight up misrepresent what the feminist position is. Instead, why not take up the strongest, most robust feminist argument you can find and really challenge yourself?
What do we see usually in feminist videos? Rape culture, pay cap, something about STEM fields, and then there's, you know, manspreading, air conditioning, something. So let's take a look at the pay gap. Usually you're saying that anywhere between 75 or 83 cents. And I did this in my video with the actress Belle, or whatever her name was. Is that you can take any, you know, America, Australia, you know, take example America. There are a lot of corporations that employ people, have people on their payroll, and let's just say the pay gap is real. Okay, it doesn't still mean that every company pays women less for the same job as the man does. So that basically means that to get to the 77 cents or whatever, some other companies would have to pay much less for women than the 77 cents. Do you think that women in those companies that would pay them 70 cents or 65 cents on the dollar for the exact same work as a man does, with the same hours, same education, same work experience, has been in the company at the same time, as long with the overtimes, maybe stuff like that? Don't you think that women would notice that? And if it would be clear that, you know, all women would do that, then why they wouldn't just sue the company? And, you know, it's an open shut case. You just go up there and say, you know, we women, we are paid 70 cents on the dollar that man makes, even though we have the same experience, same working hours, same blah 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 blah. So for the pay gap to be real in that sense, there might be a couple percentage that comes from negotiating your contract and stuff like that. So it would seem that women are either lazy, that they don't want to go to court, or they are stupid, that they don't realize that they should take this to court. Then there's rape culture and consent. I have never ever seen in real life or in the media, YouTube, anywhere, a convicted rapist going out, out in public, high-fiving people. And what do we, if we have proof that there is a rape, we put them in the jail. Yes, there was in America the Stanford swimmer who got only 2 months, and the only one I seen say that it wasn't long enough sentence was his father, and of course he being the father, he's biased. But if you looked anywhere else, there was outrage that it only was 2 months, if I remember correctly. So this is not something, if we would live in a rape culture, first of all, people wouldn't go to jail, rapists wouldn't be social outcasts. You've probably seen stories about how a man was accused and convicted of rape. He was innocent. His mother hanged herself, killed herself. Then some boy was, I think it was in the UK, accused of rape falsely. He was beaten to death or near death. And then there are people who have killed themselves just because they have been accused. Does this sound to you like we live in a rape culture if just accusation of rape has such consequences? And this is just false, who have been falsely accused. Make that somebody who's brutally raped somebody, especially a child, and he's convicted and put to jail. Do you think really that we normalize rape, or is something that is accepted in our culture?
I am deeply concerned with male addiction rates, suicide rates, and abuse rates, because I have worked with these issues in the quote-unquote real world. Would you be willing as anti-feminists to put aside your differences with feminists for the greater good of addressing these issues, especially as the kind of solutions needed are not necessarily gendered? And if so, I would actually like you to let me know, because I'm not fucking around or presenting any gotchas here. I actually really think that we could get something done if we work together. So yeah.
To be honest, that was kind of stupid question at first. Are you concerned about male suicide and addiction rates? Of course, we are concerned. There are plenty of videos that we talk about male homelessness, suicide rates, that's things that mostly affect men. There was even a conference on this issue, male suicide, in Toronto, I believe, 2013 or something. You've probably seen footage of the protest that feminists had. So I guess what I'm saying, it's not enough that you want to talk about it, because it's good, and if you want to, I can talk about this stuff with you sometime and hang out with others.
What is third wave feminism? Because I've often heard you folks insist that you have no objection to feminism in general. It's specifically third wave feminism that you have a quarrel with. So what is third wave feminism specifically? And what specifically about third wave feminism do you have such a problem with?
No, I'm no expert, but I have seen plenty of videos on YouTube talking about these things. So I'm gonna go with that. But the first wave feminism, how I see it, is that it was about getting the equal rights, getting the vote without signing up for the draft, equal pay for equal work. So those two are, I think, the biggest things about the first wave feminism. There were other things, but can't think of them right now. But third wave feminism, I think it's, you have all the rights that men have, except the right to, so tits. You have the equal pay, and you have all these rights that men have, but yet somehow you still talk about that women don't have the rights that men have. Men are privileged, and this, like the most important things you have taken care of, rights, equal pay, and now you're talking about air conditioning, manspreading, mansplaining, whatever. Everything is problematic. Everyone is sexist. Everyone's racist. Talking about men. So these type of things I personally see is the third wave feminism. Is kind of like that we have already everything we need, but let's get more and more and more. And honestly, I can't see the day when feminists would be happy.
Why is it that this feminist represents all feminists, but this men's rights activist doesn't represent all men's rights activists?
Whoa, wait, sexism all of a sudden? Ladies and men are different? So we're supposed to punch men and not hit ladies and open doors for men, but not ladies? Fuck you, get out of my face, you tiny piece of shit.
A lot of feminists seem to be a little bit of overweight and throwing those temper tantrums. So yes, it seems to be that quite a lot of feminists are that. And this men's rights advocate, is he men's rights advocate? I don't know. He was yelling, not good, but he was talking about, we should hit men but not women. Of course you shouldn't hit anyone, but there are plenty of people saying that no matter what, you should never ever hit a woman. And I just don't see that, If somebody is violent towards me, I need to defend myself.
Since so many of you profess to be admirers of second-wave feminism as opposed to third-wave feminism, I thought it would be interesting to ask which second-wave feminists in particular do you appreciate? Which books written by second-wave feminists have you read and found interesting? Which second-wave feminist activists have you specifically admired as you formed the opinion that you like second-wave feminism but you have no use for third-wave feminism? I'm just curious.
Second wave, actually, I don't really know what was the second wave. Was it when the no-fault divorce and stuff like those came? Maybe I do like the first wave feminism with the equal rights. I think women should have those. But people saying feminism is for equality and throwing dictionary definition at us, it's false, because from the very first, from the beginning, the vote, women got the vote without registering for the draft. That's not equality. So yeah, I have a problem with feminism from the very beginning.
You do understand that reading the title of a book or an article or watching the first 15 seconds of a video is not going to give you a deep, nuanced understanding of what that book or article or video is about, right? That being said, how can you expect to understand or critique feminist sources if you don't even attempt to understand what they're trying to...
Yes, we understand. And sorry to say this, but no shit, Sherlock. And it's kind of funny that you say that you can't critique without understanding when you are making a video with Steve Shives, who has made at least two videos about men's rights movement and 5 stupid things about men's rights movement. Two videos. And the funny thing about Steve Shives is that he said that if you're angry or something like that about unfair divorce settlement, divorce court, or you can't see your child. So he marks these things calls himself a feminist. Yeah. But yes, but if I see an article and there's million sources, I'm not gonna go through them all. I might check one or two.
Is trying and failing to debunk a study into sexual assault the number one priority for a rational thinker now? Does it maybe say something about your priorities? Does it? Nah, it's fine, it's the feminazis, we have to stop them.
Well, if you call all men rapists or potential rapists and stuff like those, I think it's quite a good thing to call out that bullshit. A lot of these feminist studies, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 women, when you actually look at FBI, those stats they present, your studies get debunked. And just using common sense, also you can debunk many of those feminist studies.
One of the major arguments that I see in many of your videos is that it is possible to separate criticism of the religion of Islam from the actual Muslim people. And yet, this line seems to be crossed very often. I see things like raghead or camel fucker or other things like that in your comment sections. I see people taking very serious shots at Muslims in videos and hangouts, and they don't get called out. At least not that I can see. So my question is this: why should a person of conscience who is concerned about the Muslim people and their community not being harmed or mistreated, why should they believe that you're actually only attempting to look at the ideas and talk about the ideas if you ignore bigotry that's occurring right in front of you? And in that light, would you be willing to break bread and salt with moderate Muslim people on your videos, have hangouts, invite them to your channels, just in order to build some bridges there and to learn more about what they think and how they feel and what their experience has been, so that information and knowledge can be furthered?
I haven't any of those things. What I've heard is sandy nigger, and then is it goat fucker? I don't know. Anyway, again, what I've personally seen on YouTube from Muslims is that the moderate Muslims, not all Muslims, not all. Yes, if somebody would want to hang out with me in Google Hangout, sure, I would talk to them, no problem. But again, I can understand that if somebody, a Muslim, even if it's moderate Muslim, comes in and says that not all Muslims, and nobody, I have never ever heard anyone say that all Muslims. So it's a shitty argument, or whatever you want to call it. So a lot of these moderate Muslims, what I've seen, they do know that that's happening, but they really don't care, because it's not all Muslims. They only care about that people think that he or she is like that.
Do you deny that systemic racism against black people is like a thing in general? If so, what? Okay, just step up, just cover your ears for a second and let the smart people talk. If not, why is it so much more important to you to demonize groups like Black Lives Matter than to actually use your platforms to discuss actual solutions to issues surrounding race and racism?
I don't like your attitude. Systemic racism towards black people. No, not in Western cultures. Have you seen the protests? Have you seen Black Lives Matter shouting dead cops and stuff like that? Have you seen it?
Wherever did you get the idea that racism was a self-applied identity? And if the only true racists are the racists who self-identify as racists, how can we ever expect to make any social progress to reduce racism? Or did I just answer my own question?
No, not every racist is just who says that they are a racist. And again, nobody says that. But a lot of you social justice warriors, feminists say that all white people are racist. Black people cannot be racist. So that's just, how can we talk about racism when a big chunk of people say that they cannot be racist?
You often say that you are for equality of opportunity, but if people of color, for instance, have to overcome barriers whites do not, such as discrimination and unequal treatment as are well documented in various studies, then how can the current situation be thought of as equal opportunity in any real way? And why do you consider it racist to discuss these issues?
If you ask me, it's very rare that everyone is on the equal playing field. And for really systematic racism to exist, in my opinion, it should be like black people are the last option available. So if a white man or a white woman comes in job interview and they have a criminal record, bad education, their appearance is awful, they smell bad, anything like that, and then there comes in a black guy or a black woman dressed really nicely, good education, and no criminal record, and they still hire the white person, then I can say, you know, black people should have special privileges because we, you know, white people have it so easy. But should there be job applicants that only minorities should can apply? No, I don't think so.
Do you understand basic English syntax? Like, you know, if I say this cat is pretty, I don't mean that all other cats aren't pretty. Like, do you really not get why saying all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter is not only racially insensitive, but just patently ridiculous?
Do you understand that if we would just everyone use all lives matter, it would include black people, and the Black Lives Matter. If every person who was killed by a police officer was black, I would understand that. But I've heard police killed more white people, was it last year, than black people. You don't hear that much, if any, about the killings that happen to white people by police officers, but you will hear about when it happens to black people. So do blacks really need Black Lives Matter when already everyone is talking about so much and rioting every time that a black person has been killed by a police officer, even if it's black police officer. So yeah.
Isn't it offensive to men to assume that a man could only ever want equality for women and therefore be comfortable with feminism as a whole in order to get laid, and that reduces us to beasts? If that was the case, wouldn't I attempt to get laid from my views instead of not ever trying that?
If you say you're an egalitarian, will you call out the man-hating slurs that you see coming from people within your community? People who use terms like cuck, beta male, faggot, or mangina? All of these things basically distill men down into thinking that the most important thing about them is to be having sex with a woman. That's rather offensive. So what are you doing to stop this kind of behavior in your community?
I think when people say that somebody is a beta male or feminist for to get pussy or get laid and whatever, a lot of them seem to be that whatever women do, if a woman beats up a man and well anything, they run to the rescue of the woman, they make excuses for her. So that's why they are called beta male, and they are usually the type skinny, not attractive, not a lot of money, a lot of times. So on the social hierarchy they are very low, They are basically at the bottom of the pyramid, so to speak. And women's equality, you could ask alpha males, quote unquote, and I would assume that a lot of them, most of them say that women should be equal there and they support that. Some of these male feminists, they just have that body language that we are so sorry, we are male, we are so sorry. You know, they cannot help that they are born a white male. They can't help that. But yet they seem to be so sorry about everything, and they've never harmed anyone. So I guess that's why they are called cocks and beta males. And of course, Cox, the one journalist who wrote that letting my wife sleep around with other men taught me how to be a feminist, those kind of things. So yeah.
What has the number of followers, the number of likes, the number of dislikes, the number of retweets, the number of subscribers, any of those numbers, any of those metrics, what have they got to do with the argument? Deepak Chopra, for example, a man who trots out an endless stream of pseudoscientific quantum woo bollocks, has nearly 3 million followers. So what? Those people follow him because he tells them what they want to hear. Why even mention the number of followers you have? What difference does it make?
I've never heard an anti-feminist talk about that. Bering had this problem that some said that he shouldn't do videos of people who have less subscribers than he does. So again, it was a feminist / social justice warrior who said that.
Why do you find it so hard to believe that feminists are being harassed online?
I don't find that hard to believe, and there are evidence that somebody like Brianna Wu, I guess was the person who wrote comments to herself. Then there was at a university a black student, I guess, did a poo savastika, whatever. Sometimes they fabricate evidence, but I think what people are saying that it's not only just women and social justice warriors that have this problem, because a lot of people who are not feminists and social justice warriors get hate and harassment online and even offline in real life.
As a supporter, as a proponent of freedom of speech, why do you want to quash academic freedom? If you're not familiar with the concept of academic freedom, it's worth, in the UK at least, looking up the 1988 Education Reform Act and seeing what that says about the rights of academics to put across unpopular opinions.
I don't have a problem with academic freedom. I only have a problem when these gender studies professors, they all the time sometimes just spew hate and say that black people cannot be racist, blah 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 blah, and they help people to make these special rules for these special snowflakes, so to speak. 72 genders, and it's just silly. You can talk ideas for sure, but if you are gonna talk about like this is the absolute truth, then you should have a real good evidence that is true, and it should be up for a debate. And then on campuses, these men's rights clubs or stuff like those, they get no funding or they are not allowed. Of course, this is probably not academic freedom, but the point remains is that it's an opposite opinion and it's not received well in college campuses. So I think that's the problem.